Good morning, everybody. I'm glad to be with you again. This is actually my most joyful, happy moment as the week starts. I just love the opportunity to get to chat with you a little bit. And today I'd like to chat with you because I'm having a little bit of a challenge with it. The topic of junk food in general. Uh, Junk food is usually defined as a food containing ultra processed foods or UPFs. This means the item is probably high in a combination of three things. The first one is salt, the second one is fat, and the third is refined carbohydrates of various kinds, which trigger the brain's reward system by releasing dopamine and can lead to cravings and overconsumptions. I call it the foods that say, more please. Uh, the 10 most intense examples of junk food in our countries of Canada and the United States are pizza, chocolate, chips, ice cream, cookies, French fries, sugared sodas, cake, cheeseburgers, and muffins. Do any of you have any problems controlling quantities of any of these? Well, if you do, don't be surprised. Each may activate the brain's pleasure centers in a way that is actually similar to addictive substances like drugs. Uh, why these foods are addictive. First, our brain chemistry. The combination of high fat and refined carbs uh, can have a super additive effect on the brain's reward system, meaning the combined effect is greater than the sum of each of its parts. This triggers a really powerful release of dopamine, the brain's pleasure chemical, which can create cravings and a cycle of overindulgence. Uh, these foods are actually engineered to be virtually irresistible. These foods are often engineered to be highly rewarding with properties like melt in your mouth, good to the last drop. Um, text, the texture in chips trick our brains into thinking there are no calories, enjoying continuing consumption. You just crunch them, they dissolve in your mouth, and you just reach back in the bag for another handful if chips are your thing. There's also a gut brain connection. Processed foods lack the nutrients needed to actually satisfy proper gut health, which can negatively impact the production of mood regulating hormones like dopamine and contribute to the addictive eating patterns. I know for me, M&Ms are one of those foods that really trigger the production of dopamine, and I try to avoid them at all times simply because I become so overstimulated when I eat them. It's very similar to drug addiction, I would think. Researchers indicate that the brain's response is to some of the highly processed foods is actually similar to that of people who are addicted to cocaine. Some scientists suggest that warning labels on addictive foods, similar to cigarettes, could help address issues like obesity. Um, Interesting thought. I know there was a study done by David Kessler, who was the former FDA commissioner, that laid the groundwork on aggressive tobacco regulation with a simple metaphor. Nicotine is addictive, like heroin or cocaine. Now, he warned the public about now. He is warning the public about addictive junk food. These foods typically are called ultra processed, but uh, I refer to them as ultra formulated because they have been engineered to manipulate the brain's reward system. These foods have become sort of the new cigarette and similarly have resulted in a huge increase in the percentage of our population through all ages who struggle with obesity. The villain, and every compelling story needs a villain. In this study of obesity and health problems that came up is actually the food industry. This narrative is quite compelling, but the food industry is much more expansive and essential. Food is complex. The enormous appeal of uh, addictive junk food glosses over a fundamental fact about food. The substance of the food we eat, whether it's whole or unprocessed or ultra processed, is enormously complex. There is evidence in the research that suggests that there are 139,000 chemicals in food. Uh, Together, approximately 2,000 of these food molecules are currently used in drugs. Thus, there is an enormous pool of chemicals with subcellular roles that remain quite unknown. How do they interact? What do they trigger? What do they cause? Scientists argue that the molecular complexity of food creates a tremendous opportunity to unlock its therapeutic potential. But they say we are only at the beginning of understanding in this journey. By comparison, genuinely addictive substances such as drugs like nicotine and even heroin are utterly simple compared to what may be found in some of these foods. Social and economic systems add further to the complexity. Uh, but human interaction with food adds much more to the complexity of food, and it's important and it affects us. We see and prepare food for pleasure. We enjoy it in many different contexts. And unfortunately, now it is at our fingertips everywhere we turn. Even if we fully understood the substances of the food the industry produces, social and economic systems create another layer of complexity. Food marketing taps into these systems to ensure that we consume even more. Um, give me a break here, people. Uh, Remember, I'm just one person trying to get through this, and these additives, these extra chemicals are not helpful in the journey. Uh, it is not just the substance of the food that we eat that is making us fat. It is also the rituals and the context for the consumption that are woven into our lives. Think of all the occasions where you use food as ways of celebration. So naive efforts to regulate food marketing as if it were mere advertising rules uh, will probably guarantee that that particular solution is not going to be successful for us. It's much more and yet compounded by the content of the foods we eat. The simplistic metaphor fails when it just says, well, quit eating ultra processed food. Would that it were that simple. Uh, Addictive junk food can lead us badly astray in our efforts to deal with obesity. Every complex problem does have a solution uh, that is pretty simple, makes pretty good sense, and yet may be wrong. And such is the case when it comes to ultra processed food. It is engineered that way, and yet it doesn't work to just re-engineer. Overcoming the problem is going to take more than one approach. Junk food is addictive because it's engineered to trigger the brain's reward system, particularly by combining high levels of sugar, salt, and fat to create a hyper-palatable experience that will release dopamine. This can lead to cravings, loss of control, and other compulsive behaviors similar to those associated with uh, addictive substance use disorders. The body's natural fullness signal, and I'm going to repeat that, the body's natural fullness signals are overridden by these highly processed foods, leading to cycles of overconsumption and cravings. How junk food affects the brain and the body. First, the release of dopamine. There's a surge of dopamine. And dopamine is a neurotransmitter associated with pleasure in the brain's reward system. This makes you want to repeat the experience. Excuse me, I need a drink of water. Oh my, this is toughy. Junk food also disrupts the natural signals. The high calorie, low nutrient combination in junk food actually overrides natural feelings of fullness and actually leads to overeating. It creates changes in the brain. Regular consumption can condition the brain to crave more, and the intense reward response can alter brain chemistry in ways similar to drugs. There actually can be withdrawal symptoms. Some studies show that people who stop eating high sugar or high salt foods experience withdrawal-like symptoms, including anxiety, headaches, poor sleep, and intense cravings. There's a gut-brain connection. The lack of nutrients in processed foods can disrupt the gut microbiome, which is linked to mood and cravings. This can create actually a vicious cycle of wanting more food to feel better, but not getting the right nutrients. Supernormal stimuli. Junk food is actually often designed to be more stimulating than natural foods, with ingredients like acids to increase salivation and high glycemic starches that cause rapid blood sugar spikes, further reinforcing cravings. Uh, Addiction-like behaviors are also seen when ingesting these foods. Loss of control. People can struggle to get cut down on consumption despite negative consequences. Intense cravings, a strong desire for these foods can develop. Compulsive behavior. Eating becomes compulsive and actually is difficult to stop. What causes food addiction basically is consuming highly palatable foods or foods that are high in carbohydrates, fat, salt, sugar being one of those carbohydrates, or even artificial sweeteners triggers the pleasure centers of the brain and releases that good feel chemical, such as dopamine and even serotonin. These foods affect the same area of the brain as drugs, alcohol, and behaviors such as addictive shopping and gambling. Highly palatable foods often contain unnatural substances or higher than normal levels of natural substances that your body and brain simply cannot process in that quantity. This results in your body being flooded with good feeling chemicals. To help you hang on to or recreate those good feelings, your body and your brain will begin to crave these highly palatable foods. And because your brain will adjust its receptors to compensate for the rush of chemicals, you're eventually going to consume increasing quantities of highly palatable foods to get that same feel good reaction. So, who's at risk? Because everybody has to eat to survive. Anyone can develop food addiction. Overexposure to highly palatable foods can increase your risk of developing a food addiction. And people who are overexposed at a young age are at an even higher risk. People who use food to cope with stress or to change their mood are also at a higher risk. Have any of you ever said something like, oh, I'll just grab a handful of this and I'll feel better? Uh, that's that type of thing. And how many children eat over processed foods on a regular basis and look at the increase in the index of overweight children under the age of 18 that we now have in our countries. It's very worrisome when the government comes out with a report saying that the current generation will be the first generation to not live longer than their parents. And a lot of it has to do, in fact, with the complications of health issues that arrive based on this type of diet. There's a question I think everybody likes to ask. It's how do I prevent or overcome food addiction? And I think all of us would like to know the answer to that. To be able to just not be drawn to that particular food item. Food addiction is difficult to prevent because it's impossible to avoid food. You can avoid smoking cigarettes the rest of your life. You can avoid smoking or drinking alcohol the rest of your life. But you cannot avoid eating food. However, one of the best strategies is to avoid overexposure to palatable foods by eating a healthy, balanced diet that's rich in natural, unprocessed food. Eating a balanced diet and understanding the warning signs of food addiction will help you to act quickly if you suspect you're developing a problem. Overcoming food addiction typically involves following the same model that is used to treat other types of addictions. And you'll need a solid plan, and you're going to need plenty of support uh, as you go through it because it is a struggle. Addiction is a true struggle. First, you'll need to detoxify your body by avoiding trigger foods, such as fast foods and foods processed with sugar. During this time, you may even experience some withdrawal symptoms that can range from mild to very severe. I have been with people who were detoxifying who have actually become physically ill and developed headaches and upset stomachs, etc., as they were going through the withdrawal. After you detoxify your body, you'll need to work on changing your eating behaviors. Does this sound at all familiar to you? You may need to avoid certain people and places, like certain favorite restaurants that have your special treat addictive foods, situations, and food that can intensify cravings or make you more likely to consume whatever the problem food you have is. You also may need to break associations between food and routines or events, such as eating ice cream before going to bed or having buttery popcorn at the movie theater. Other strategies that can help include tracking your food consumption, pre-planning your meals, and you eating mindfully. Although some people do gradually reintroduce small amounts of the protein food after they have detoxified, it's really not a good idea to do. You should pay close attention to how your body responds to your problem foods to decide what long-term strategy is right for you. The only thing is, it's better to just say no than it is to give it a go when this is our problem. Uh, I believe with supportive friends and what we all know that we are trying to do, which is eat in the healthiest manner possible, uh, we can make a difference and not have these foods trigger responses that can disregard months and even years of work uh, by eating them again. They are better off not reintroduced into our diets because they are so difficult because they are addictive to stop. So think long and hard about how much you love pizza, chocolate, chips, ice cream, cookies, French fried, sugary sodas, cake, cheeseburgers, and muffins. I know they all sound like more, don't they? But we can say, yeah, no more. I can find something else that is better and taste even just as good. So, with that wish for all of us, I will say go out there and have a good day and maybe grab yourself a salad along the way. Talk to you later. Bye for now.